Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dea Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today's guest helps high achievers answer a question most of us avoid. What happens when success on paper no longer feels like alignment in real life? What an awesome question. I'm Dea, your host. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Help me welcome our guest today, Laura Patac. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Dia. Hello to you and to your listeners and viewers. And I'm super excited to belong to your podcast today.
Good word. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about our guest. Fascinating guest. She's a storyteller, a leadership speaker, and Gallup certified Cliff Strengths coach. That's important. And with over 25 years of executive leadership experience across 5 continents. After a powerful corporate reinvention of her own, Laura made it her mission to help high-performing professionals navigate uncertainty, identity shifts, and career transitions with clarity and strategy. She is the author of Whole, Not Perfect, an Amazon best-selling book in spiritual growth, and Stories with Purpose, where she blends lived experience, strengths, psychology, and practical strategy to help people move from external success to internal alignment. So powerful. Laura, welcome. Do you have any additions, subtractions, or corrections?
Well, you described my last 5 years in a very accurate way.
Okay, good.
And you described you had a bit of like overarching description of my last, I would say, meaningful 25 years. So I'm good. Nothing to add. I think the stories will add a lot to our conversation.
Well, excellent. Phew. So, this is a podcast about belonging, and I have invited you, and you are able in this wonderful world of cyber travel to come here from Romania to tell your belonging stories, either how you found it or how you have created it for other people. So, let's dive in. The mic is yours.
So, Dia, first of all, I would I had to reflect quite a lot when I realized that I'm going to be a guest in your podcast. I had to reflect about belonging because uh, because for a long time I believed belonging meant being accepted by the world around me. Um, I was thinking about belonging as, belonging to a role, belonging to success, belonging to the expectations people had of me.
Mhm.
And on paper, I think my life looked very full. I built a career over 25 years. Um, I built that career across, 7 countries on 5 continents, different industries. I was always in my corporate life, which indeed I did an exit 3 years ago. But in my corporate life, I was always performing, delivering, and constantly moving forward and upward. I think that we discussed before starting recording about the importance of words, and we are all having this desire to move upward and forward, right?
Mhm.
So But I think that, somewhere along the way in my corporate experience, which was a very rich one with a lot of learnings, and I've been very blessed having that experience. But I think that somewhere along the way, I started feeling a very quiet kind of disconnection. Nothing dramatic, don't think about, like burnout or anxieties, but it was a disconnect. It was something very subtle, because I was reaching a point where I realized that I could not longer clearly hear myself underneath all that noise.
Wow.
The responsibilities of every day, the identities I have built in different roles, the versions of myself which, I had to learn how to function, to perform, and to adapt. And I think that's one of the hardest experiences for high-performing people, where actually you no longer hear yourself in all that tumult, in all that kind of vibration of day-to-day life, and through all the things you are doing, you can't hear yourself. And you know how it is like when your life looks fine from the outside, because everyone from the outside to the outside world, I was a highly relatable and reliable individual, pleasant. My life was looking very good, successful, high-end jobs, good salary. But it comes very difficult when your life looks very good, from the outside. It becomes difficult to explain why something inside no longer feels aligned. People might say, "Oh my God, you are crazy. What is missing in your life?"
You have everything.
You have everything, right? And to me, I had that kind of moment of clarity, but because I understood that it started to nag me inside, saying that, okay, so this is not how you feel that you should go about this. It was that kind of question which I really couldn't pinpoint and say, oh, this is the question which I need to answer. And it took me some time. And that misalignment actually, that kind of nagging kind of point which I was not able to define clearly, it was the beginning of a reinvention. And it was not reinvention as becoming someone else, but reinvention as returning to myself.
That's a very big distinction. The reinvention is becoming yourself, peeling off what's been put on top of you.
Yes. And it started, I would say, very natural, because I started to take distance from the noise and ask myself some questions. And some of the questions I was asking myself, who am I beyond what I do? Beyond my title, beyond my job description, beyond all the results and all the success, which apparently I was very good of delivering, who I am beyond what I do. And the other question was, what am I good at? In a sense, like, I'm good, like in my job, I was good in problem solving, leading people. But when imagine that your titles goes away, your job description goes away, what are you good at, and how you're gonna translate all the learnings and experience of the last 25 years into something meaningful? And I think that the last question, which was very hard to answer, it was, what still feels true to me as behaviors, as things which I wanted to do, as things which gave me the energy. What feels true to me, the people which I'm surrounded with, what is true, what I feel that actually I really want to belong and keep doing, or maybe stop doing altogether. And slowly I realized that belonging actually is not something we find externally first. It starts usually internally. And it really starts when we stop trying to become who we think we should be. Like, you should be this kind of successful one. You should be this kind of, you should go for the next promotion, you know, and begin understanding who we already are, what we are good at, what motivates us, when we feel in alignment, when we feel passionate about it, about something.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? What drives us to do what we are doing every day? And that's big. That's our purpose. What is still meaningful to us? So, and honestly, I would say that realization, all this answering all these questions, which it took some time, it does not happen overnight. And this is something which everyone who is listening and is in, it has that kind of internal nudge that something is not aligned, something feels off.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to tap into a process of reinvention, it takes time. And it takes honesty, first of all, with yourself. And it also takes consistency, because it's not that you think today and tomorrow it goes exactly as it was going before. You really have to think and to do something like small every day. So that realization changed not only the way how I work, but the way how I relate to myself, to people, and to life. I realized in that process that I was really underusing and under evaluated my creativity and all what it comes to my passion of writing, because I do belong the uh, to the group of people who are, like, you know, highly creative. We like putting things in writing. My love language is metaphoric. And I think that I was suppressing that for so long, that right now, actually, when I was, like, you know, thinking about what is still meaningful to me, what drives my energy, where my passion is, that kind of, like, you know, that kind of memory surfaced very clearly and very fast, because it wanted to get out. So reinvention, when someone is thinking about reinvention, and tapping into building a story of reinvention and tapping into the process of reinvention, a couple of things are important. One, it's important to understand that everything starts with self-awareness and self-reflection.
You got to identify what's not working.
Yes.
To fix it or change it.
And change it. Now, it sounds very easily to when people are saying, oh, change it, but how you change it, right? Because there are so many things which defines us. And especially when we are looking to someone's life, we could see through self-awareness and self-assessment, we could really identify those kind of patterns which they are very visible in our life, and they are driven by our strengths. The pattern of taking over responsibilities which are not yours, the pattern of always being an achiever and, you know, trying to achieve everything no matter the risk of the resources, the pattern of always being the one avoiding the conflict, or not, you know, not avoiding tough conversations. So there are so many patterns in our story that brought us where we are right now, and those are important. Understanding what are the individual strengths which drove those patterns.
I was just going to ask, where does the Strengths Finder fit into this analysis?
So strengths are our natural talents, which we all possess. And they are the ones which are getting very loud under pressure, and they define our patterns. Understanding strengths, you understand also how they played an important role in your past experiences, what patterns they drove, and you have the ability to calibrate, understanding which strengths they've been overused or underused. And I think strengths, together with understanding the origin story, as I'm saying all the time, the origin story is the story that brought you where you are right now. Understanding those kind of 3 to 5 moments in life when something shifted, something changed, a big change, and understanding which strengths contributed for you to take action, to decide, to have a thought process. That is an important exercise of self-awareness and self-assessment, which helps you identify patterns which they might serve you, continue serve you in what you want to do next. But there are others which might not serve you at all in the next version which you want to become.
Are those ones that don't serve you, are they what you've brought on yourself and others have placed on you that they don't really belong to who you truly are?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This is fabulous, but we're going to take a quick break. And Laura, you have shared so much wisdom, and I can see the impact that your knowledge and guidance can have with someone eager to get settled on the inside in their reinvention. We will be right back. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we are back with the fabulous Laura Patac, all the way from Romania, with so much wisdom and knowledge. If you've listened to any of the podcasts, I always ask my 3 favorite questions in the second half, and today is no exception. I want to know, of all the many accomplishments, what do you consider is your greatest accomplishment, Laura?
I think one of my greatest accomplishments goes like twofolds. We were talking about feeling that misalignment and that kind of answers which they were trying to show up in order to understand what that misalignment is, right? So I think one accomplishment, it's about finding the alignment between who I am and going to the places where actually the spaces where I don't need to perform a version of myself to be accepted. I think that's an accomplishment. Just being myself all the time and, belonging to spaces where actually I do feel free to be myself. And I think that's a big one. The second one is that I took the courage to get all the most meaningful experiences of from my career and from my life into a book, Whole Not Perfect. And Whole Not Perfect is going to help readers to understand the individual uniqueness driven by the stories, the experiences which they lived, and the learnings they took from those experiences, understanding the importance of their strengths, their values, and how everything ties up into the purpose. The kind of book which you have to experience more than read, and having that journey, people will be much closer to feel that alignment within themselves, and also align that version of themselves with the external world.
Tell me a little bit about, let's talk about your journey in getting this book. How long did it take? What prompted you to say, I'm going to write a book? And how's it going?
Well, at the age of 16, I realized that my language to express emotions is poetry. And understanding that, I realized that poetry, it's a beautiful form of art, and it's storytelling in itself. So I wrote poetry my whole life. And somewhere along the way, when I was discovering my purpose and I was answering all those kind of tough questions about why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, what gets me out of bed, what excites me, I realized that writing and storytelling and poetry are a very big part of who I am. And as my purpose is to leave a legacy to others, something that they can learn, they can take further, something that they can use in order to improve themselves. I came up with this beautiful concept of a book, which is not a normal book, because it consists in poetry, the stories which are actually underneath that poem, and consist in a sample of questions which helps you reflect and reframe some of your own experiences. I think it's part of my legacy. It's part of the world where I belong, the world of expressing yourself through lyrics, the artistic world, the pen and paper, and the white paper, where actually you are the most honest to yourself and you put your truth in words. It's that world which might sound like very personal, but I took the courage to make it from personal to put it in the world and creating something meaningful which people can use, relate to, and help them to evolve.
How long did it take you from when you decided, I need to write this book?
Well, it took me 5 years.
Okay. Believe it or not,
Yes.
that's not, I've had somebody that took 30 years to get a book written and somebody else 10. So 5, you're doing good.
Yeah, well, 5 years with a lot of support, because nothing in my life, I just did it just by myself. Um, and writing a book, first of all, you really need to have the consistency of writing, um, to have that kind of habit of whatever idea you have, either you are in a plane, in a bus, at your home, or at a party, you have that kind of, you put it on paper, you take a voice message, you just have the habit of taking your ideas into words. So it's about the consistency. But after that, it's also about the community, people who I'm surrounded with. And I'm super blessed of having amazing people around me, supporting my artistic angle, understanding the value which I bring through that. And last but not least, um, I also had a coach, a mentor, someone who could help me um, get to a format which actually brings value, and it's very easily to be understood but also experienced by my readers.
Yeah, that having a group that you belong to to support you, that is where the belonging can flourish and nourish a person to be able to write. And how did you decide? Because it's sometimes challenging to figure out what the title is. You have your working title and then you try this other one. And how did you settle on, Whole, not perfect, which I totally love.
Well, I had a poll on LinkedIn. I had three options for the title. Actually, three or four options for the title. I just put out there a short description of what's the target audience for the book, what's the purpose, what the book is going to bring us value. And from that kind of short description, I placed the four titles, and my LinkedIn community voted for Whole Not Perfect.
Well, it has such a strong message just in the title.
Yeah,
You
because
can be whole, but you don't have to be perfect, and nobody is, but you can still be perfect. I mean, whole, not perfect. Yeah.
I think perfectionism is what we are trying to demonstrate to the outside world. To be perfect in what we do, to be always right, to be the best, that kind of like perfection, which comes somehow with an external validation. And while wholeness, it's all about our inner world and how aligned we are with ourselves.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Second question. What makes you feel like you belong?
Okay, so tough question. You are asking me very tough questions, Dia, today. So for me, belonging, it's not longer connected to a place, a title, or even the external validation, which we just discussed. I feel that I belong when I can fully honest. I can be fully honest with myself, with who I am internal. When who I am internally is aligned with how I live, speak, and connect with others. And I think that, for a very long time, I searched for belonging through achievement and adaptation, but real belonging started when I stopped trying so hard to fit somewhere and I started understanding myself more deeply.
I love that. And that's true because that is, if we are going to belong anywhere, our real self has to be there to belong. Or it's our avatar showing up and belonging to other people's avatars. We need to get back to who we really are. Last question. What is your favorite quote today?
Well, my favorite quote lately, and I think that I fell in love with this quote. It comes from my book, Whole Not Perfect, and it goes like that: we do not become by accident; we become through the stories we choose to live. And
That'll preach. That'll preach.
yeah, and I think it's so powerful, and it's very well connected with the most um, two important stories in someone's life, because we tell stories 90% of our time. Even our conversation is storytelling. Any form of art is storytelling. In organizations, a presentation, feedback, a speech to your team, an interview, everything is storytelling. But I think out of all the stories we tell in this life, and or we listen in this life, two are very important: our own story, the story that brought us where we are right now, the experiences we lived, the learnings we carry with us, those kind of like challenges we went through, and we went on the other side, in a sense of like, changed person, a next version of us. And the second most important type of stories are the stories we tell to ourselves here.
Right.
So therefore, when I'm thinking about, stories and the stories we choose to live, we choose to live not only through the day-to-day actions, the day-to-day experiences, but we choose to live here.
Mm-hmm. Right. If you tell yourself the story that I am whole but not perfect, then you're going to live a certain way. If you tell yourself the story that everything I do is messed up and I'm wrong, then that's how you're going to live. You live so much in your head. Such a good And it's not by accident, which
Yeah,
is it's exciting because we don't have to keep listening to the same stories. We just change the stories.
yeah, and this is where patterns are very important, and understanding those patterns, the pattern of, telling yourself all the time that you are not enough, telling yourself that it's not enough and you want like more. Those kind of like, thoughts which becomes like, the internal storytelling, creating patterns driven by some of our strengths, because again, our individual strengths, they create those patterns.
Right. Ah, so good. So good. Great conversation. But before we close, do you have any parting words for our listeners? What's their takeaway?
Well, I'm going to be saying like this. If there is one thing that I've learned through all the process of reinvention and trying to, find that alignment, is that most people are not truly looking for perfection. they are looking they are looking more for peace. They are looking for alignment. They are looking for a place inside themselves that finally feels like home. And this is when I realized, that you really need the wholeness, the alignment with yourself. It doesn't mean perfection, and the perfection is someone which belongs externally, right? And I think that many of us spend years trying to earn belonging externally, through achievements, titles, validation, relationships, without realizing how disconnected they can become from themselves in the process. But the beautiful thing is that we can return, not perfectly, not instantly, but intentionally, and we can start listening again. And I think that we can start noticing what feels true, what gives us life, what no longer fits. And little by little, we stop building a life only around expectations, and we start building one around our own truth. And for me, that's what wholeness means.
Great. Yes. Listen in on that. Well, to our amazing guest, Laura, thank you. Thank you for joining me miraculously through cyberspace. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember you belong. This is Dea Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.